All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the August 15th Facilities and Purchasing Committee meeting of the School Board of Lower Merion School District. We have Jason and Melanie and Vic Orlando on our Zoom, so you get my smiling face to run your meeting today. Just so everyone knows, this is being live streamed and recorded. We have no members of the community in person, so if I don't throw it to any comments in the community in person, that is why. And I think that I got the list of everything. Okay, this is good. We'll start it off with the list of bills, and I don't know, it says Mr. Orlando, but are you going to handle it, Jim?
Just from an introductory, there's actually two files there. One of them is July 15th. Those are for ratification, and then the August 19th are the ones for the current board meeting on Monday night.
That is correct, Melanie. Sheena.
I forgive you. Do we have any questions? Do you have any questions, Kim? No. Jason or Melanie?
No, thank you.
All righty. I am also good to go. What a way to start. Then let's crash on to our purchasing report.
So, getting momentum built. I'm going to ask Mr. Pitts to speak to items 1, 2, and 3 on the purchasing report. So, without further ado.
Good morning. First item on the purchasing report is renewal.
Could you turn on? Oh, is your microphone on? Yeah, it is on. He was on. No, we're good.
Can you hear me?
It was just a quiz. You're good.
Okay. First item is door access control camera license renewal with Linnell. These are for our security cameras. This is actually a reduced amount from last year because we're doing fewer licenses with some of the other upgraded cameras that we have done in projects this last year. It is recommended the priority pricing from I2 Security Solutions to renew the door access control and camera licenses under Linnell from September 1st, 2024 to August 31st, 2025, be approved in the amount of $15,797.50. The next two items are vehicles. The first is a Ford F-50 truck with a snowplow upfit. This is truck T4. This is the UBM supervisor's vehicle. It is recommended the pricing from Hondu Ford under a CoStar's contract 025E22387 for one Ford F-250 with snowplow be approved in the amount of $65,969. The third item I'll cover is the Ford F-450 truck with utility body outfit. This is a replacement of our T26 vehicle. It's the one that hauls our low-rise trailer and equipment around the district. It is recommended the pricing from Hondu Ford under CoStar's contract 025E22387 for one Ford F-450 with utility body upfit be approved in the amount of $98,724. And I will turn it over to Mr. Lill unless there are questions.
Kim, did you have any questions?
I do. Out of curiosity, I wanted to know what was the savings. You said there was a savings, I think, with the very first
approximately $5,000. It was a $20,000 license renewal last year, and now it's down to $15,000.
Okay, thank you.
Last year, we paid $20,849.16, so that's about $5,000.
Can you just explain what that does, number one?
So, for our cameras and our door access, it was a system that was put in 18 or so years ago. There is proprietary license. When we buy a camera, we buy, number one, the physical license of the physical camera, but we also pay a license to use that as a proprietary software package. As we've been rolling into new cameras, the newer cameras don't require the split between the license and the devices themselves.
So as the devices become obsolete in future years and we replace them with new, then we'll have fewer and fewer licenses. They'll all be on the same new system?
Correct.
Okay, so this is the system that, what does the system itself do? Like, what are we taking pictures of?
So we have cameras in the exteriors of the buildings, the hallways, the common areas, the cafeterias, the auditoriums. To some degree, we will cover very sensitive spaces like the pool mechanical room, the deemer, but generally it's the common access cameras, and we are up to some 1,200 cameras across the district.
And so they're always on, or do they have motion sensors so that when somebody's moving in there?
So depends on which camera's which. Some will be constant. They are always on, but some of them can be programmed so that they don't really record until there's motion, so that you reduce the amount of packets that have to go through the data system.
Right. I'm thinking of George and his data storage and not wanting to store years and years of video if we don't have to of an empty room.
And we don't. We store 30 days.
Okay, great. And this is my own high horse of hoping to go electric at whatever point that makes sense on our trucks. And I know Ford has the F-150 Lightning that's electric. Is that not available in utility vehicles at this point?
So the 250, it's
Is the next
150, 250, up to
size,
450. They actually go up to, I think, a 750.
Yeah.
We need to be able to push snow. And an F-150 for our lots and the degree that we need with plowing.
Is not enough horsepower. Yeah, but so they don't have an electric in anything higher than the 150 at this point?
I don't believe they do.
Okay, that's fine. I just always feel like I need to, I was looking at it, I said, okay, 2 trucks, we can probably figure out the charging for 2 trucks. But if it doesn't work, then that seems like a totally reasonable price for those vehicles. Mel and Jason, did either of you have questions about 1, 2, or 3? I'll take that as a no.
I'm fine.
Okay.
I would like us to really confirm that they're not electric vehicles available. Can we do that before we make a decision? Like that they actually don't have anything that's electric, since that's the
You know what?
direction we're going in?
I can actually Google it while we're going
Okay.
over the next one, because once I said it out loud, I'm pretty sure that because they made a big stink about the 150, and so I'm pretty sure it's only for consumer vehicles and not for professional vehicles. But I'll search that up while we're talking about basin and rain garden plantings at Black Rock.
Thank you for the introduction and segue. On August 7th, we opened bids. Actually, we opened 2 separate construction bids, construction packages. This is the remaining loose ends and the outside of the building, the site and landscaping around Black Rock Middle School that we've been working with the township to close out the necessary requirements, starting with the basin and rain garden planting. And this is something that they can't really start until the spring when the planting season resumes. We had the bid opening. 1 bidder responded, and we're recommending that the board approve the base bid and bid alternate 1. The other alternates are more discretionary and don't require approval. So we're going to ask the board to move forward and approve the bid received from Holidays Nursery for the basin and rain garden planting at Black Rock Middle School in the base bid amount of $22,995 and bid alternate 1 amount of $26,395, which brings it to a total contract amount of $49,390. If there's any questions.
Kim, did you have any questions?
I was just curious, like none of the other contractors put in a bid?
That is correct. I think with the landscaping, I think people are realizing it's not as easy as it looks, and they are being a little more cautious. This is similar work that was bid as bid alternates back in the spring, based on some cooperation with the township and some community members. The cost of both of these items has been reduced substantially. So we know we're ahead of the curve in terms of pricing that we'd received from the same bidder back in the spring.
Thank you.
Can you just describe the areas, what the rain garden is and like what would be, and what the basin and landscaping is, and like what's going to be planted there?
Certainly. Rain Garden A and Rain Garden B are actually two, I hate to, lack of a better term, craters. They are located close by the school. One is like on the corner of the parking lot, the other one's by the tennis courts. Now, what happens is with all the stormwater management that's collected, there's inlets all over the parking lots and other impervious areas. That stormwater is discharged into these two rain gardens. The rain gardens need to be planted. There's perennials and ground cover that are going to be installed this fall. That will make the craters more attractive. And also it serves as a bioinfiltration. It helps to clean up some of that water coming off of a parking lot. It's going to pick up things like antifreeze and road salt, and the plants actually divert that or clean it up before it actually goes into the stormwater system. So that's part of the stormwater regulations that are in effect, both county, township and county level.
And so we
It's a
know
phenomenon
what
called
plants
water
we're
quality.
planting specifically that can actually survive in those, because that, like, my plants would be super dead if we tried to do that.
They certainly have to be comfortable in wet environments.
Yes.
And that's really where a lot of the work, Bob Copeland worked with a number of different people, including a local community member who was extremely helpful and just got the right plants and the right quantities and, get it put to bed. It's just one of those, outstanding loose ends. I don't think to the general public or layperson going by, it looks at something as deficient, but we definitely want to get that water quality to where it's supposed to be and meet our regulations on the stormwater.
Very cool. And my being here in a school situation, that sounds like something that could be a really cool, like, project for kids studying stormwater. That sounds like a very middle school science kind of project. And the basin,
Okay, so the bid alternate number 2 for the basin, we've actually been able to do that pretty much in-house, and we don't need to spend that money because it's actually planted. It's out there the other day, and it's fully established. It doesn't function in the same way as a rain garden, but you certainly don't want that crater to be bare earth. So the basin we managed to take care of ourselves. The project was already out to bid, so rather than confuse everybody, we just let it go through, but that's money we don't need to spend.
fantastic.
The no mow grass for that kind of money, it's cheaper to mow the grass. And then the bid alternate number 4 was just an option to put seed mix in a planted area behind Claremont. That's purely aesthetic. It's purely discretionary. So the 2 items that we really want to get done and done right is the ones that are linked to our stormwater requirements.
I really appreciate all the work you did and the work that the township did and our community member to get this together and to get it to a lower price that the board should be more comfortable with. Jason and Mel, did either of you have any questions about the rain garden?
No, I just want to note that this is based on, I believe, the requirements that were when we built the school. And I just wanted to thank Jim again. I mean, all of the efforts that he put into this he cut the price probably in almost half of what it was before. So we really appreciate all the efforts of meeting with the different people to make sure that we have the same quality, but that we have the right product so that it's a lot less expensive and streamlined. So thank you for all your efforts.
Yeah, that's really great. So I'm good with recommending that to go forward for the base bid and bid alternate 1. Everybody else good recommending those 2 bids for approval?
Yes.
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 Great, thank you. Okay, and then we can move on to the walkway, which was also a hot topic.
So just as a aside on the basin rain garden, I want to acknowledge Bob Copeland, the project manager, operations department, for getting into the weeds.
New Bob Copeland?
The new,
Okay.
yes.
Sorry. I'm going to do that forever. I was just really confused for a hot second. Just for anybody watching, our old superintendent, 2-3 superintendents ago, was also Bob Copeland, was part of building the building, hence my confusion. You're going to have to get a super cool nickname. Okay, the asphalt walkway.
And the one liner about the weeds, I'm glad we didn't have to acknowledge that. Okay, the asphalt walkway. We are discussing this topic. It is a preliminary plan when we did land development, condition of approval number 38. That went back to October 16th of 2019. This was put out to bid. We bid this separately because we wanted a paving contractor bidding the paving and a landscaper doing the landscaping. So this is the way we were able to do that administratively. We did get 3 bids. We anticipated this was about a $100,000 line item, and T. Schaefer, low bidder at $89,260. So we're recommending that the school district enter into a contract based on that bid.
And just for anybody watching at home, can you explain the requirement of accepting the lowest bid, reasonable bid, because we're a public entity?
Correct. It's the lowest responsible bidder. What we do is the bid package of the apparent low bidder is sent to our legal counsel so you can make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. There's a substantial amount of documentation. We also have a conversation with the contractor and make sure that they know what they're getting themselves into. He, told us he hasn't missed anything. He, obviously being a low bidder, is you look at it and go, okay, well, he's $16,000 less, but we went through the big ticket items on it, and he goes, yep, I got the tree, I got the asphalt, I got the retaining wall, we got prevailing wage, the due diligence, and there's no reason to come to any conclusion that it was defective in any way, so that's where you move forward.
Okay. Kim, did you have any questions? Jason and Mel, did you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Again, thank you, Jim, for working on this as well with the township to make sure that we meet all of the requirements and also make sure that, we satisfy what the needs are. So thank you.
I had 2 quick questions. What was the low bid for the last time this came before the committee?
So I have that in front of me, and last time they bid it, it was at $49,000, but that number was too good to be true. And it's also expired.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. I was just trying to compare. And what exactly is the area that is being walkwayed?
Okay, so picture if you're driving on Montgomery Avenue and you make that left-hand turn into Black Rock.
Yes.
Okay, so as you're coming in the driveway, you're at the bottom of that really steep hill. Before you even start to make that incline up the hill, right there is the storm basin I described, crater,
Yes.
right by one of the traffic signal poles with the control box. There is an asphalt sidewalk that goes straight up the hill.
Right.
What we're going to construct is a new asphalt sidewalk that will connect to that internal driveway sidewalk around that basin, which will now take it parallel to Montgomery Avenue. However, it's going to be behind the existing trees, not directly on Montgomery.
Okay.
Wrap around this basin, come around the corner. Now you're on to North Stone Ridge.
Okay.
It'll come up North Stone Ridge and connect to a concrete sidewalk and steps that allow pedestrians living in the neighborhood, the North
Okay.
Stone Ridge, Saybrook, all those streets. The steps come up from there. But this actually connects the link between the sidewalk on the driveway and then that sidewalk up at the other edge of the property where the students can go up the steps and onto the campus and up to that elevation where the parking lot and buildings are.
So it's increased accessibility for our community members in the neighborhood and increased walkability for our students on campus.
It connects those 2 dots, if you will.
Perfect. All right, I am good moving this forward. Is everybody else? Yes, Kim is good. Mel and Jason?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And again, we appreciate all of your hard work on that. And just to follow up, Kim, my brief searching up here says that there is not quite yet on the utility vehicles that GM thinks they're going to have heavy-duty trucks by 2035. So, like I always say, with our future in EV, I talk about it so that it's always on our brains, but it's not quite the future we want, just in the present we've got. So we will move on to our district contracts with the lovely Ms. Schaefer and Ms. Frazier. And brilliant and competent. I shouldn't lead with that.
Thank
Well, we
you.
have, how about that?
That was lovely. Good morning, everyone. The contracts that you see here for review and approval are largely renewals that we've vetted previously or have been presented at curriculum meetings, other facility meetings. So nothing, I believe, that's reflected in these PDFs is essentially new to us. I will also look across to Ms. Frazier to add to that, if there's anything you want to highlight for your department. Thank you.
Yeah, so if we can, I'll just talk a little bit about each one of the student services ones that come at the bottom of the list. They're all renewals except one, which I do want to talk about. But Leader Services is a renewal. We've been using them for decades, literally. They're our IEP writing software, so we use it for our evaluations, IEPs, GIEPs. It's based on your child count number, and so there's a slight increase. Increase is like around 3,500 for the upcoming year, and it's because our numbers are increasing. Amy Barnett is a renewal. There's no cost increase. She's been with the district. She's a Wilson trainer for special education staff. She does the Tier 3 intervention training. And so again, this is a renewal.
Is that a not to exceed, or is it just?
It's a not to exceed 15,000, and then we broke it down by like the tasks we need her to do. And it comes out to like $50 an hour for the things that we base on hourly, which is a real bargain given her level of expertise.
Is that annual?
This is annual, not to
Okay.
exceed 15,000 annually, yes. And then the CCIU intergovernmental and the MCIU intergovernmental, the intermediate units provide services for students with special needs. It's our tuition for students that might be placed in out-of-district placements that through one of those IUs. And then for MCIU, we also use them for related services costs. So vision therapy, hearing therapy, orientation and mobility. So those are anticipated services through the IU. By way of example, you can see for Montgomery County, where we get a large portion of our services through because we're in Montgomery County, we're at 1.38. We're anticipating for costs. It will vary based on student need, but that's our estimated cost.
CCIU is Chester County?
Yes, yes.
And is there no cost on Chester County because it's as needed?
Correct, correct.
Okay.
And for Chester County, we largely use them for tuition because they have other options for out-of-district placements that we utilize. We do use them occasionally for some specialized evaluations. So if we need like a psychiatric evaluation for a student recommended by the team, CCIU's been good about supporting with that need, but it's largely tuition.
So I have a question that's based on something that happened at the beginning of this past school year. So we had that thing where the state required us to extend students with certain types of IEPs to continue their education instead of through 21 through 22. And I know that we sort of worked with other schools in the past or with the IU to get a better price on those out-of-district placements. Is that kind of thing included in this $1.34 million?
So those students, yes. So our out-of-district, so the budget for our out-of-district placements is at about $4.2 million. And that covers, we have around 57 students that are placed, 57 to 60 students that are placed in out-of-district placements. That sounds like a little larger number than we've had previously, but our overall number in special education is going up. We're at 21% special education at this point. That represents less than 3% of the overall.
And that doesn't include GIEPs, right?
No,
That's
this
just
is
IEPs and 504s.
this is for students with IEPs only.
Just IEPs,
Yep,
okay.
that require the specialized supports of an approved private school or an intermediate unit. So like that 4.2 is intermediate unit placements. It's also, we have students that are placed in approved private schools. So it's what the tuition and services that those students require. For the change in the state law that said instead of students aging out at age 21, they're now eligible, and this continues at the moment, to be eligible until the day before their 22nd.
It's being litigated at the moment, though, correct?
It is, correct.
Okay.
That's correct. So, we're kind of watching what's going to happen with that
We're abiding by the
litigation.
law as it stands.
We are, because that's in the best interest of students. We'd
Yeah, of
rather
course.
err on the side of what's supportive of our students. So they can stay with us until their 22nd birthday. Some of those students are in district, some are out of district. So it just depends on what their placement was prior to that.
Oh, so if they have a birthday mid-year, then,
That's a change. Yes, that's correct. So they're eligible for services up until day before their 22nd birthday. So if a student's birthday falls in October, families have to make the decision about, are we going to, keep school age services until October and then transition to adult services, or some families decide, I'm just going to make that transition and not start a new school year. That is different. That's a change in the law. It used to be that when you went to 21, they could stay that whole, that year. So if you turn, it's a slight change.
Do we have transition support for those families when their kiddos age out of our service?
Yeah.
Great.
So Helene Scott is the special education coordinator for grades 7 to 12 plus, and she's a transition coordinator. Has a great deal of expertise in supporting students with that transition. When our students start getting closer to those ages, she goes to a lot of those IEP meetings, provides a lot of support for families to help make those connections with the adult services and help families to try to navigate that.
Great. I know that's a tricky transition to make. And this is off topic, but I will put in my plug in case anybody's watching this at home. Special education is incredibly necessary, and it is also very well regulated by our state and by the federal government, but it is not very well funded by those things. So if you felt so inclined, it would be really lovely if you could write your state legislators and your congresspeople and your senators and ask for more funding, in particular for special education, so we can really get all the services. I mean, we give all our kids the services, but really having that funding is would be a really important finance stream for our district. And so I will get off my high horse and you can finish your list of contracts.
Great. Am I okay to keep going? So then the Lincoln Center, that is a renewal contract. There's no increase in the cost of that. That is for 2 full-time master's level counselors who are our wellness counselors at the high school level. And then there are 2 contracts.
And that had been covered by the grant that we got from COVID money that I can't remember the acronym for?
Not for the two high school. The 2 high school wellness counselors have been in the budget for at least 10 years.
Okay.
And that's funded through like our district funds. The grants we use to provide additional support to our K-4 schools. And so that's the difference between the 2. There's also 2 contracts on here that address needs within health services. As you know, we have a critical shortage area in our health services field. It's not unique to Lower Merion. We are generally at least 4 positions short in our staffing, typically with our staff nurses. I feel like our team is hiring all year. We just have trouble filling those positions. So we do utilize contracted services. Both of the companies that you see here, Criticare and GHR, they are renewal contracts. Criticare has a slight increase for their RNs at $3 an hour. And GHR, this is the first renewal that we've done for 3 years. So the increase for GHR just brings them up to industry standards at this point. We were previously only doing $58 an hour just because we were under a previous contract. That they're now moving up to $70 an hour. We use these contracted agencies for supplementing the shortage that we have with staffing. And we also use it for our extracurriculars and our field trips and things like that.
Do we have a nurse in every building, every school?
We do. Yes, we do. Yeah. Yes, we do.
Full-time?
Oh, yes. Yeah, yes. Yes, and if you recall, we're also responsible for providing a level of support for our non-public schools too. So we have to always factor that in with our staffing.
What does a level of support mean?
So it could be that if they might need supplies, medication administration, some of our non-pubs, like a nurse might go just for an hour in the middle of the day to do medication administration. But we have some other schools that have some pretty intensive medical needs students where we might need to provide more support. Depends on the needs of the students.
So if we had like an independent school in our district that wanted a full-time nurse, would that be something that we would provide, or is that their
Depending on
responsibility?
their needs. Yeah, depending on their needs.
Assuming that there wasn't like the 1 hour a day kind of need
Correct.
that we would push in
Correct.
if they just wanted a school nurse in their building, like it's good practice to have a school nurse in the building?
It's, again, only dependent upon need. Typically, the independent schools provide their own. We're talking more about like the one I'm referencing where we have a full-time nurse is parochial school where they have intensive needs students.
Okay.
So, so those are the two for our health services. PTS is also a renewal contract. We use PTS for occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech if we need like sub-coverage or we need additional support. Our speech therapists are part of our union and part of our district. But sometimes we need additional support, like if we have a student who has instruction in the home and they need speech, we might utilize the contracted services if none of our staff are willing to do it. There are slight increases, and it's, again, it's based on availability. These are also critical shortage areas. So the cost per hour for physical therapists has gone up $7 per hour, and it's because of availability of being able to fill those positions. The OT rate has actually stayed the same. It's only a one-year contract for PTS this year, and we'll revisit again as we move forward. The other contract that's tied to that is also Karen Penzarella, has been with the district for 24 years as a contracted occupational therapist, and so she'll continue to support at a rate of $68.30 an hour. That's no increase in the hourly rate for her. And then the new contract for student services is U.S. Medical Staffing. U.S. Medical Staffing is actually connected to Ostels. We do have a contract with Ostels. They support with OTs and PTs as well. We typically have to have multiple agencies because of staff shortages. The U.S. Medical, the reason why we are looking to add U.S. Medical Staffing is because they are able to provide board-certified behavior analysts. So we've talked about this previously. For special education, we require, based on student need and evaluation needs, 5 full-time board-certified behavior analysts for special education. Historically, those positions have been provided through the intermediate units. The costs have really increased over the years. The cost increase for BCBAs has been it's been at least 50%, and it might be a little bit higher than that since 1920, and since the 1920 school year, and that really is.
Oh, you mean 2019, 2020, not
Yes.
1920. Okay, I was like, that's some historical knowledge, and also if your rate of pay has only gone up 50% since 1920, you should ask for a raise. Okay.
Since the 2019-2020 school year, it's gone up almost 50% in cost, and that's, again, it's like scarcity of resources, right? When these are highly specialized fields with highly specialized expertise, it's harder to fill them. What we found last year and going into this year, the IUs, we've used both Chester County and Montgomery County, they're not able to fill all our needs. We're starting this year where of the 5, I can only get the IUs to fill 2. So we've needed to look elsewhere because the IUs haven't been able to support. And I want to say the intermediate units have provided us with really skilled BCBAs. So we've been really happy with the level of service. It's just the amount of service they haven't been able to cover. So we have a good working relationship with Ostels. We've had good experiences with them. They are able to secure us the additional BCBAs that we need at $90 an hour. And another great positive to this is that their rate is less expensive than the IUs. And so we'll be saving per hour around $35, $36 an hour using the U.S. Medical Staffing to do those additional BCBAs. So that's the reason why I'm recommending this additional contract. And that's our only new contract.
Fantastic. Does anyone have, now that I've asked Kim a million questions, Kim or Mel or Jason, do you have any questions for Kimberly?
Thank you.
Melanie?
No?
Oh, I had one question. I knew that you had mentioned in passing about the health and wellness counselors at the elementary schools and how they were by grant. I think that I was wondering, I know we had talked about that there was an initiative to see if there was a way to either see if there was availability through other grants to get some of those additional counselors back to elementary schools. So we had 2 in each school, elementary school, to provide the services. Is there any decision on that? I know that the administration was working really hard to see if we could make that work, so that we provided as many resources as possible for the children.
Yeah, we still are actively working on that, and we learned earlier this week that there is the potential for some additional grant money. So we are still actively working on that, and we are prioritizing figuring out how we can get additional support across all of our K-4 schools.
So right now, the schools that only have one health and wellness, is it confirmed that the ones that have 2 will be splitting some of that time with the ones, so that everyone has, at least during the week, some double support at those schools while we figure out the grant situation?
That is the plan that we're working on right now, and it involves current personnel. That's these are the steps that we're taking. Fortunately, we believe we may be able to secure grant funding that will give us some more flexibility in doing that across all buildings.
Excellent. And do we have an idea as to when the grant that you just found out about is that something that we would for this year, or is that something for next year?
It's our understanding it's across 2 years, I believe. Vic, if you're still.
Yeah, that is correct. We need to apply to the grant in September of this year. It runs through June 30th, 2026.
Excellent. So it would provide us potentially with 2 more years of that additional support at the schools.
There are some other strings attached to it. So we're, like I said, I think the idea will be that we will maximize it to that degree, but there are other, I think, obligations under that grant that we have to review as well and meet as well.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Okay, if we don't have any further questions, do you have no? Okay. Is everybody good recommending this for approval on Monday night?
Yes.
I am too. Kim and Jason, Mel and Jason?
Yes.
Great,
Thank
thank
you.
you. All right, thank you, Ms. Frazier. And we can go on to Mr. Stroop and the Lower Merion Aquatic Club agreement.
Shana, this is Vic. So this is the Lower Merion Aquatics Club to be renewed. Yeah, so this is renewal for LMAC. This is the same financial terms that we currently have in place. The only thing different is if there's additional hours need to be for our support for the collective bargaining agreement, they have to pay the new rates. But everything else is the same terms except for the year term.
Any questions?
No, thank you.
I had a tangential question. Who do we hire for lifeguard services? Do we have lifeguards?
Yeah, I am Pool.
What?
I am Pool management company that we have in place.
Oh, okay. Do we ever have students that we hire for that? Just, I know that that's tends to be a job that teenagers can do and do well, and so it seems like a service we could do to at least do lifeguard training here and hire our own students to work at our pools.
So we actually have a pretty large lifeguarding program at our high school. So a lot of students do get certified to be certified lifeguards through the Red Cross and through our PE program. And that IM Pools does hire Lower Merion students at times. Many of those students are involved in other things, so sometimes they're not available after school.
Of course.
However, we do, there have been times when we've hired students as lifeguards.
Yeah, I just know as after-school jobs go, lifeguarding is a very well-paid gig that a high schooler could actually get. And so every bit of financial independence we can secure for our students is a good one. So I'm good with this. Anybody else have any questions? Or are we good putting it forward?
I'm good putting it forward, but I'm curious, are we paying students the fair market value for that position?
So IM Pools, we pay IM Pools, and then they're actually employees of IM Pools. So IM Pools pays them.
I understand what you're
market-
saying.
They pay them market rate.
Okay,
correct.
all right, thank you.
Mel and Jason, we good moving this forward?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then I guess we can move on
Yes,
to
thank
Huddle.
you.
Mr. Orlando, are you going to start with this one, or would you like Mr. Street
Sure, I'll
to do
start
so?
with it. So this is
Okay.
Huddle. Huddle's a contractor we've been using for our live streaming and videoing for our athletic program. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jason's probably 6 or 7 years. We've been using this organization, this vendor, and this is a 3-year contract to lock us in at these rates. It's about $1,000 more a year that we're currently paying to this vendor. And I'll turn over to Mr. Stroop if he wants to add any other particulars to this item.
Sure. So this contract covers both Lower Merion High School and Harriton High School. It covers the camera rentals that we have in our main gym and in our stadium. It covers storage space for each of our athletic teams. And then it also provides film breakdown for our athletic program. So after a team plays a game, they send it in and they send back statistics that our student athletes and our coaches can access.
And it's all for games, or is it also for practices?
It can be used for practices. Some teams do use it for practice, but it varies by program.
Okay, cool. It's a cool program. I, very many years ago, lived in Lincoln, Nebraska, where Huddle is based, and it was getting off the ground, and one of my roller derby teammates' husband worked there or something, and so we used it for one season, and it was pretty cool. It's a helpful tool. Any other questions we good moving forward? Mel and Jason, good?
No, thank you.
Yeah, good to go.
Okay, that was a yes, we're good, Jason, though? No questions?
Yes.
Okay, good.
No, thank you.
All
Perfect,
right.
thank you.
Okay, now we are looking to Rothman Orthopedics. Wow, my mouth did not want to say that.
Yes, so this is so Rothman Orthopedics provides your athletic trainer services to the secondary schools. This is the final year of a 3-year agreement with Rothman. If you recall, in the spring, there was an addendum to the contract for last year. There's another addendum this year. The contract calls for 4 full-time athletic trainers and 6 part-time athletic trainers. However, due to staffing issues, particularly with the part-timers, we amended the contract last year to provide 6 full-time athletic trainers at the secondary level. So this addendum basically reflects that change to 6 full-time athletic trainers at the secondary level. And you can see the cost is roughly $396,000, and it is about a $75,000 increase from the contract that was initially negotiated. And we will be going out for RFP again this year for vendors going forward for the services starting with the 25-26 year.
Any questions?
No questions, thank you.
None here.
This is my own little hobby horse, but I'm looking at the concussion program. Do we, for sports where we provide the equipment for students, are we providing mouth guards for those kids also?
Yes, we do provide mouth guards. Some students bring their own, but we do have them available.
And they're generally the boil and bite ones, or we actually like have a dentist that comes and does real molded ones?
They're the boil and bite ones.
Okay. I'm good moving this forward. Everybody else?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Kimberly? You look like you're having feeling face.
Well,
Your microphone.
I am, because I'm like, this is for Rothman for 6 people. They're here, they work here at the district all the time, or they're?
Yes, they work for our district. They work for Rothman, but they are based in our district, correct?
And we cannot hire trainers to work exclusively for the district and not go through Rothman?
It would be significantly, it would be probably close to double if we hired athletic trainers from the district standpoint.
Right, because if you look at it from a per person, it was just under $400,000, and if you divide that by 6 employees, that's little less than $66,000 a person a year. And with what we pay our employees, it is pretty unlikely that we would be able to hire somebody.
You talking about adding in benefits or just period?
No, that'd be adding in benefits too.
Okay,
Remember, they have
because
to
I
be
mean, I
part
know
of the
what
retirement
athletic trainers
system.
make, so.
So it'd
Yeah.
be much more expensive, that Mr. Stroop alluded to.
Even if we could hire a trainer whose salary was $66,000, then the amount of benefits and PSERS we'd be obligated to pay.
Right, that's what I was just saying.
Yeah. So,
Okay, thank you.
okay, Kronos. Sounds like we're in.
Looks like I'm up.
Yes.
This contract is a renewal contract for our time clock support services, which is an annual renewal. So this is not a new product. This is, again, a support service for the existing time clocks.
Is this only for hourly employees, or do all employees use a time clock?
Hourly.
Okay. Anybody else have questions?
No questions, thank you.
Oh, I do, I'm sorry.
No,
The pay, who do we use for payroll? Like a, like a company like Paychex or something like that? Because
No, it's
normally.
done in-house.
Okay, so that's
We
why
have our
this
own
is
payroll, we
also.
have our own payroll department.
Okay. No, because I was saying that a lot of those companies, they provide these time, yeah, right, exactly. So I was wondering. Okay, thanks.
I'm good moving this forward. Everybody good?
Yes.
yes,
Jason?
Yes, thank you.
Great. All right, Mr. Wilsons. We're back to TransFinder again.
Yes, we are. Good morning. As you may be well aware, we're using TransFinder as our main routing software, and we've been using for about a year, fully for a year, and we'll continue using this software. And we're looking to add some modules that we can use with this particular product. The first would be the StopFinder Geo Alerts. This is basically to eventually replace our bus status software that lets parents know when a bus is running late. This is more advanced product, GPS-based product that will actually allow parents to see where the bus is. It may alert the bus may be 5 or 10 minutes away, whatever the parent's preference is. It will require a lot of setup and configuration and calibration to make sure it works. So this year, we're still going to be relying on a bus status while implementing this in parallel, maybe doing some brief testing when possible.
Any questions?
No questions, thank you.
How's
I have one.
Oh, go for it,
Mel. I'm happy that this is going through. I just wondered, is this is an, remind me, this is an app that each person can download? And also this is will students have access to it as well at the secondary level?
Yes, it's an app. I don't know exactly how we will set it up at this point. Definitely parents will have access. I assume probably high school students may have access. For a current bus status, all the families, anybody can download the app and watch it, but there's no information really about students. Same as this one, it's just gonna basically have a bus number and where it is, and we probably will limit how much parents can see the bus, that it's when in their area to avoid. Same bus does 3 tiers, so we have to make sure that we can separate these tiers and parents don't confuse when a bus 5 comes in, that's not a middle schooler, it's high schooler maybe. But it's an app that will be, everyone will be able to download. There will be little bit more verification process than it was with bus status, which was basically completely open. And that all will have to be worked out with IT, with integration. We already have circled this by George, and he has learned about this product. We had multiple meetings with a vendor, so that's all the process. That's why I'm getting it now, but I'm not gonna probably use it until the next school year.
How's it going with Wayfinder? You've been using it for a year. Do you like it? Does your team like it?
The TransFinder, well, yeah, it's Route Finder. I get confused with these names all the time.
The Finder thing, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's going well. I mean, we still have to, but that's with every software, complications with softwares are not built to deal with choice zone, for example. It's the way this transportation software is built, every school has their attendance zone and that's it. So when you get in a choice zone, it messes up your reports, and also attendance area exceptions and things, split custody, where we go to two addresses, and now we have to cover whole district, not just attendance area. That all requires additional. We're still working with, we have found a way to integrate, but it's not just as simple as basic home-to-school transportation.
Sounds like all of your employees really like puzzles and are working hard on them. And you're doing okay with putting together the routes for this year? I know that school's starting real soon and that this is crunch time for you guys.
On a paper, we are ready. We'll see. It's really hard to tell how it's going to run with the traffic patterns and everything. And I know that it's going to be worse at the beginning, because now people know they don't want to be around high school 7:30, but they're going to have to learn that now they don't want to be around high school around 8:30, because that's when the most traffic will be. We have a lot of commuters passing through the district that don't know about this change, so they will learn it in a hard way. So I kind of hoping that at the beginning, as they learn, it lightens up a little bit. But yeah, it's on the paper, all the routes are finished. We're just fine tuning, adjusting, adding the kids that's still coming in, all the special needs arrangements that's still coming in, and our drivers are turning next week, starting to practice runs.
Great, and I will continue. I'll ask our community for a little ounce of grace as we get that set up. And Ms. Buckman?
Yeah, I just wanted to note that we do have a communications plan for wider community awareness of the change in start times. And so starting next week, you're going to see signage outside all the secondary schools with the new school hours. So the people who drive by will see those signs. We're also working with the township to get some of the big light-up signs outside some of our schools.
I was going to say a billboard, but we don't really have billboards in the township, particularly. Buy a billboard on 76.
And also, we have a public service announcement that's running on our cable channel, and the township's going to help disseminate as well. And we are going to I've been working with Mr. Vilsons. He had a good idea yesterday that we're going to send a letter out to all of our families, just asking for patience and grace as the school year begins, because there are a lot of unknowns with the change in start times and the traffic patterns. And so it's always a little bumpy at the beginning of the school year, but we're going to ask for some particular patience this year as things settle down into the new patterns.
Great. I appreciate all the hard work from both of your teams and from the township for working on us. And because we're talking about transportation, I will take this opportunity to do my regular pitch that our school district is hiring bus drivers. We're a really great place to work. We now have a sign-on bonus of several $1,000s. We have really good, we have competitive pay with our district. We will train you how to get a CDL with an S certification, and we have really great benefits. And also you get to work with all these really fantastic folks and do good work that's really a service to our community. So if you or anyone you know has any interest in driving a school bus for Lower Merion School District, you can go to lmsd/jobs/bus. I'll get it right one of these weeks. And so I am good to move these TransFinder proposals forward. How about the rest of our group here?
I think
Yes.
I covered only one proposal yet.
You covered one. I thought we talked about the second one.
No, the first one is stop. That's why I'm saying these naming conventions they use
No,
are
because we
confusing.
talked about Stop Finder.
Stop Finder, but now it's Wayfinder.
And didn't we talk about Wayfinder also?
No, you asked me a question about Wayfinder, but it was a Route Finder.
Oh,
You
okay.
were asking about. So, yeah.
I
it's-
did say Wayfinder. I did. Okay, let's go for Wayfinder, and then I can poll the group.
The Wayfinder is we try, that will be the pilot product. The Wayfinder is the tablets on the buses that drivers can use that pulls up a route, and students, and they can see what students would board at each stop, how many students they have to drop off. If with route students, as you know, we're doing a lot of hiring. We have a lot of new drivers that still learning the district, and even for me, I've been here for so long, but I spend most of the time in office, so if I have to go out and drive, I get a bus with an aide that knows the route, but if I would have to go in a big bus, I would get lost. You also have to avoid all the underpasses that don't have enough clearances and stuff, so this would be like kind of GPS for a driver, but it's more advanced version of it with the student information and things like that. We're gonna pilot it. We did get one tablet from them for about 2 weeks to test it, and concept is working. We're gonna have to make some adjustments the way we build the routes, but overall, we believe we can make it work, but we're not going full in, just testing it to see if we can make it work and if drivers find it useful. And
So this 20 tablets is because it's a pilot, and if it works well, we'll expand it to the whole fleet?
we would have to have a tablet basically for every bus if we expand, yeah. If we
Okay, I
expand.
was just looking at it, say, I know we got a lot more than 20 buses, so.
We have 135 buses. Yeah, this is just a small pilot, just to see the proof of concept, basically, to see, make sure that there are no issues, because if we go in and buy 135 tablets and then find out that it's not really working out for us, which happens a lot with new technology, so we don't want to risk it.
I appreciate that fiscal responsibility. Does anybody have any questions?
I have one.
Go for it, Mel.
But Kimberly, did you have one? Did you want to go first? Or?
Well, I'll just, dovetail off of Shayna's comments about fiscal responsibility, because that's a big thing for me, so thank you.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, I mean, I understand from this point of, that this is supposed to try to help us save time, because you won't have to go to stops, the person's not going to be there that day. But I'm wondering, with the tablets in the buses, are they being mounted in a certain way? Because the one thing I am concerned about is, like, we don't want distracted driving, having a tablet in the bus and I know it's for GPS services. So how is that going to be working in the bus?
Yeah, it's not quite to know if students will be there or not. It's for safety and for efficiency, so the drivers don't make wrong turns and then they have to go around and come back to the stop, which delays it. This app won't know if the student will be at a stop or not. And since we're combining stops, most of our stops are now multiple students unless it's special needs. What was the other?
It does say it comes with a mounting kit.
It will be mounted. There are multiple options. We will work with our safety team to decide how we do that. It can black out the screen and just go by voice while you're driving. But to be completely honest, I feel that's safer than driving off the piece of paper, looking at a piece of paper in your hand and trying to find your route around. That's why, for example, like as far as I know, we are only district that uses senior drivers as spare drivers, the ones that know the roads and can jump on every run. A lot of districts use new drivers on the routes, and I see them all the time in September reading the paper, trying to read the number 10 font and in a different light conditions, and it's difficult, or turn-by-turn directions. And if you make a wrong turn, you don't have any more directions how to get back. So that's why, there is a tablet. We still haven't decided how it's going to be flush mounted. It has to be safely mounted. There's special, it comes as a special mounting bracket that keeps it safe. It doesn't come a big projectile in case of accident, but as for implementation, that's why we have a pilot. We'll test it if we need, if voice is enough, if the driver can hear voice instructions in a loud bus, or they may need to see them.
Okay, well, thank you, and I'm glad we're progressing from paper.
Everybody good now moving both of these forward now that we've actually discussed both of Mr. Wilson's items?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay,
you.
me too. All right, thank you so much. Let's go to our contracted drivers and aides.
Yeah, we bring this up twice a year. That's a more of a school code requirement. It's that school board has to approve the contracted drivers and bus aides. The drivers and bus aides on this list have been reviewed. They meet the same, they have same requirements as the school staff, same clearances, background stuff, and also they're making sure that they have a current license, if they're a school bus driver, that they have a school bus physical and S endorsement, so they've all been reviewed. This list is constantly being updated because we're getting more new contracted drivers, but per the school code, we have to bring it to board twice a year. It doesn't really give me much information besides a person's first and last name.
I'm encouraged because as I recall last year when we got this, almost all of the contractors we used were completely blank because they were having just as much trouble hiring as we were. So to only have one of the companies be a blank sheet is, oh, they don't even have any approved drivers. So that makes me feel a little better that we do have some names.
Since I completed this, Philly Trans has approved some drivers with us, so we're getting some. It's mostly will be special needs. Atlas, Balgo, and First Out will be special needs. Rest of them are for sports. The sports trips that are going to be happening between 2 o'clock and 4:30 that we can't cover because we transporting students home to school.
Great. Assuming no questions, but speak up if you've got any. Is everybody good bringing this forward?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful.
Yes.
All right. You are relieved of service at this point.
Thank you.
We are on to the integrated alertus.
Correct. Mr. Witt's name is listed there. He had some other commitments and appointments. He's working on mission-critical items.
That's why I got confused. I saw Mr. Witt and I said, you are not Mr. Witt. What is that?
Dennis is on mission-critical items to get buildings open on the start of school. So,
Do that, please. Thank you, Mr. Witt.
Mr. Pitts will take that. So Mr. Pitts is also on deck for the next item, so we'll do it that way.
So this is for alertus. This is a continuation. We've worked out all the bugs with alertus. It's now in all the schools and all the buildings. I can review what the program is, but it's basically early warning tied into the county CAD system that directly implies or responds down to the Lower Merion Police Department, as well as notifying the building through their computers, their phones, and the PA systems. As any law enforcement official will tell you, the way to stop a bad person with a firearm is to have a good person with a firearm there as soon as possible, and that's what this system basically does. The service and preventive maintenance agreement pricing for the upcoming year is $35,036. Any questions on alertus?
This is only for panic button stuff, or is it if we have a fire alarm go off or an any kind of alarm?
Separate from the fire alarm system, this is purely a panic button, early warning, notification from the exterior of the building for the bus drivers to know not to drop kids off, as well as the most important thing is the communications with the emergency management.
And so this isn't like a button in a hallway the way a fire alarm would be. This is people who have, like, adults with...
So there are physical panic buttons in the buildings, and there are also, for lack of a better term, I've fallen and can't get up buttons that can be pressed to alert these things. It can also be done through the system, through the computer system.
But it's the kind of thing that like the principal can do and not like, or is it every teacher?
Not every teacher, a limited amount of staff within the building.
Okay, yeah, I don't
The
need to get it,
office-
I don't
the-
want to detail exactly who has access, but I was just kind of trying to gather the level. So some employed adults in the building have access to it. Okay. Anybody else? Mel, Jason?
No, thank you.
Okay. Are we good moving forward on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So let's go on to Lumen.
Lumen, a lot of technical details behind it, but basically this is our old copper line connections to the world for our fire alarm systems, security systems, the backup for the data across the district in case the main fiber lines that connect us go down. Very limited at this point, but there are still some fax machines that are supported. This is emulation of the copper lines. The administration recommends the board of directors approves a service order with Lumen for digital emulation phone lines and digital fiber phone switching devices, PRIs, for a period of 5 years at a monthly base service rate of $9,551.85, which is $114,622.20 annually, for a total 5-year cost of $573,111. They are basically upgrading from one network to a new network. They are offering us a cut in price compared to what they're going to charge us if we don't switch over to their new network, basically as a carrot to set things up. And the 5-year basically locks in our cost for this over that period of time. Subject to your questions.
Do you have questions? I'm trying to figure out how I want to phrase it.
I was just curious, you said fax machine? Like, we don't send things digitally when there's a fax?
99%, but there's a few things, some things, especially the nurses tend to
Yeah,
send things
doctors,
via fax.
the medical system is so stupid, and they require that faxes
And that is
are-
tertiary, that's completely tertiary. The main thing is direct wire connection for our fire panels, for our security panels, and as I said, that is a backup to if the main fiber goes out. We kind of, it's almost to the level of AOL, I don't know if I'm speaking properly on that, but it's a way for the buildings to stay connected.
So we're paying $115,000 for a backup system every year?
No. These are the communication lines for our fire and security lines.
Okay.
And elevator emergency call boxes.
Exactly.
They have to have a dedicated phone line. They're not allowed to go through the voice over IP. It's a matter of building code. So if there was ever a fire alarm, it has a dialer. It dials a constantly attended location, which sends the fire department. Those basically have to be hardwired.
And
The
and
faxes are hardly ever used. The backup lines, I don't think have ever been used. But, thank you, yep. But we have to have, we are required to have fire alarm systems. We should also have the security systems.
Okay, and so what I'm having a hard time understanding is what are we renting and why don't we own it instead? Like, are we renting the physical lines? Like, do they own the physical copper phone line, or is it the service we're paying for?
So I will try not to get too in the weeds on this. We own from a 66 block to all of these copper wire connections.
What's a 66 block?
66 block is if you go into a building's basement and you see a piece of plywood on the electrical room and a whole bunch of really tiny, small copper wires going onto it.
Okay.
That's the 66 block, and we own everything after that. Everything on the other side is owned by either Lumen, Verizon, Comcast, some
Oh, okay, so we
telecommu-
don't have a choice. It's not something we can purchase ourselves and have in-house. Like, we can't purchase beyond that section what we're renting from
I
Lumen?
suppose if we have Elon Musk money, then we could, but
Can I
probably
try
not.
this?
Yes, please. I'm so confused.
I'm gonna really
sorry.
date myself, but you remember when you used to have a power outage, but you could still pick up the phone and it
Yeah.
would work?
Yes.
Okay, that's because power's coming all the way through to that phone.
Yeah.
So for life safety equipment, vendors, fire departments, other agencies want to know that that equipment's going to continue to work if there's like a power outage or a network outage
That
or
much I
something
get.
like that. So for much of the equipment that Ken and Jim are talking about, they want to know that that line is going to stay up in case of a power outage, for
Right.
example. Just like when we were kids and you would still have dial tone after a power outage or during a power outage. So we have to pay for these individual lines that are outside of our network. So like normally, like if you were to make a phone call, and I'm looking around the room for one of our phones, that phone call is called voice over IP,
Yeah, it's
and it
Wi-Fi
goes all
calling.
through our network.
Yeah.
Well, life safety doesn't want that happening with like an elevator that's stuck.
Of course.
Or a fire alarm. So we have to pay for these separate lines.
Right, so, okay, that, I absolutely understand. The part that I'm trying to clarify, and as you're talking, I think I'm understanding that the answer is no, we can't. But what we are renting, from the 66 block to wherever we connect to.
world.
Yes, that is not something we can buy. That is something we have to pay a service fee to use.
Correct. Picture
Okay,
back
there
in
we
the old
go.
days when you had a house phone, like a landline.
Yeah.
You would have to have had a Verizon account. I'm dating myself, Bella, Pennsylvania. That was what you had, because otherwise you could have all the phones, you could have 10 phones in your house. You had to connect to the outside world, and that's part of that cost.
Yes, that's what I was trying to gather, was where the outside world started. And this is where it is. Okay, thank you for indulging my brain. Yes, does anybody have any other questions now that I've beaten this dead horse? Are we all good
No.
to put it forward? And this is for
Yes, please.
5 years
Yes.
at $114,622.20 annually.
Yes.
Okay, now that we've gone through all that, I'm good too.
Thank you for giving me one more opportunity to talk about technology.
Wait, so you're here, while you're here, tell me about your fun experience with CrowdStrike, because we've gotten to hear about we've approved agreements for CrowdStrike, and I know last month we had a fun, we and everyone else had a fun experience with CrowdStrike.
If CrowdStrike had to pick one day of the year to have an outage, Friday during the summer in a school district was the best day for them to have that outage. Now,
Says someone who didn't have to fly an airplane that day.
For us, it was a lot of running around and a lot of fixing, but we didn't have students coming in. We didn't have a large number of employees here, so it was an unfortunate situation for many, but for us, it couldn't have been a better day for that unfortunate situation to happen.
Is that something where we think we may stick with them or try to find a service from their competitors?
No, I mean, so the likelihood of that happening again is very, very unlikely. What's tricky about it is CrowdStrike is trying to combat vulnerabilities and compromises to computers.
Yeah,
So
well,
it's important that they're working very, very quickly.
they didn't consider how vulnerable they were to interns
They,
or whoever did it.
Unfortunately, no. But that situation is very, very unlikely and worth the risk of continuing to have them working as quickly as they are to keep our equipment safe and accessible.
And so during that downtime, it was just that nobody had access. It wasn't that somebody else could gain access to our systems while we did not have access to our systems, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So any machines that were updated, when they tried to restart, would crash.
Yeah.
So ironically, the machines were probably safer during that
So if somebody
period
else was
because
trying to hack it, they wouldn't have a computer to access.
No, because they were literally just crashing. You kept seeing that blue screen
of death. Yes.
Right, and it was literally that. The screen would go entirely blue with a sad face, and
I love computer programmers.
We had to work through, it wasn't even really a difficult fix, but it did hit a lot of people at the same time. And unfortunately for travelers, it was not.
I will tell you, my first thought was of you. I saw that on the news and I went, oh no, George.
Thank you. I mean, fortunately, I have an amazing team, and they were working on it by 5 o'clock in the morning. They were already
Thank you, team.
identifying the issue and figuring out a fix. So I'm very fortunate for the great team I have.
Well, thank you for your hard work and thank you for agreeing to stay on as through your retirement as we try to find someone to fill your shoes.
I think it's going to be a short amount of time. There's some good candidates already lined up, so.
Great, happy to hear that. Thank you so much. And this is your last official day, so I'll officially say thank you so much for your years of service to our district.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's been a real honor. Thank you.
Great. Okay, now we can move on to Chester Valley Engineers' proposal for Kinwood and BC with Mr. Lill.
So this is a very early phases of what I would call some exploratory work. As many of you are aware, between the two physical buildings, Kinwood and Bow Kinwood, there's a rectangular field that sits down there in that bowl, and that rectangular field is surrounded by a gravel track. And a few years ago, on that field was 6 temporary classrooms that housed the math department for the Bow Kinwood Middle School during before Black Rock opened. Math department was out there for a couple of years. They lovingly called it Calcatraz. They then finished, and we opened up Black Rock and removed the trailers. When the trailers were in place, that roof of the trailer is impervious. We also had a crater, yet another stormwater management basin that was in that field, within the oval of the track. So in the summer of 2022, Black Rock opens, the need for the temporary classrooms is eliminated, classrooms come out, fill in the hole. We now have the field back within the track in one piece. It's not really graded and sloped properly. I mean, you can figure this has been torn apart and put back together, and it doesn't have a crown to it that typically athletic fields would have, which would allow it to drain.
I said it's janky.
There's definitely some low spots, dead spots, and definitely some dead spots. So aside from not having the greatest lawn appearance, it does have some bare spots. Because there are low spots and not really properly graded, and you get this puddling, it does have ponding and those type of effects. So what we're asking our civil engineer to do, Chester Valley Engineers, they have a survey department. They go in there and get a baseline of exactly what the topography is now, because again, it's been altered a couple of times. And we are going to ask them to start putting together some conceptual plans just to see what kind of extent or work it would take to kind of build up the grade, so that typically if you want a grass field to slope, you want to have a high point in the middle, and then they call it a crown that would slope 1% down towards the edges, or maybe 2%. Now, everything we're talking about here is grass. I mean, we're talking about a grass surface, so when there's rain, you also have wet grass, and when there's snow, you're still going to have snow. But by having it slope properly and not have these low spots, dead spots, it will perform better in terms of usability. Basically what this will do is it'll give us the background information. We're going to have to go in and make sure that we lay some things out correctly, because if we're successfully able to get this water, the rainwater, to slope off of the field, we don't want to start creating large puddles or lakes around the edges, in which case we've created a moat. So we want to try to make sure everything is properly sloped and then integrated in so that it drains properly. And even though, again, grass, that is a porous, pervious surface, always has been, always will be, but you still need to address that sheet flow, that runoff, and make sure it's properly collected, township requirements in there, and also, like I said, not to have these puddles form that you can't get to the field because you now built a puddle directly in between the field and the school building.
So I want to yes and this project because one of my pet projects that I have long wanted the district to address is the track at that field, which as a neighborhood resident is terrible. It is, and when you're talking about the moat, all I can think of is having the track be that like muddy, gravelly moat, which it is every time it rains. And what an incredible service it would be to both our students and our community to be able to have some sort of actual running surface as opposed to dirt. I know from many years of doing this and doing land development with the district that pervious versus impervious surface is a huge thing, and is something that I would happily talk with our commissioners about, and talk about. I know we've in the past talked about pervious pavement surfaces and how that would work in this kind of situation, but I would really love to see, as part of this, an evaluation of ways that we could upgrade our track to a better running surface and maintain the integrity of that track area, because it is highly used. That field is used by 2 schools, and so we'd really get a lot of bang for our buck in making that space more usable for our students and for our community. So is that something that would be included in this scope, or that we could expand the scope of this work order to include?
We could expand the scope, but we'd also have to expand the not to exceed limit.
I mean, I won't speak for the rest of the board. That would be okay with me.
So we could do this. Step 1 is for them to go out and survey that entire area. The existing conditions are the existing conditions. They're not going to change in the next month, and they're going to try to get out there in the next 3 or 4 weeks. If it's the board's desire, you could approve this. They can get started, and then in September there could be an addendum or an add-on to pick up the cost around the track, and then we can build it up from there. But at least they can get started, because they're going to have to go in and
Yeah,
do
when
that
they
survey
look at the
work.
whole field, that includes the track surface too.
They're going to survey it, correct,
expands.
but they're not going to start doing the
I understand,
drainage and
yeah.
layout and stormwater. Now you've added a larger
A greater area,
stormwater
yeah.
scope. So I just want to make sure that.
Well,
again,
I just worry that if we're talking about the stormwater, if we're talking about the edge of the field is the inside edge of the track.
And that, yeah, that we would address, because we got to make sure that the field drains correctly. But now when you're talking about the track itself,
Yeah.
now we're into some type of, the base is asphalt. Even if it's, if you're going to do it as a competitive surface track. So
Of
once
which
you add
there
that
is
in.
pervious asphalt, isn't there, on the market?
Correct. Now, even that has the gravel underneath of it and ways that it has to be designed and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
laid out. And also.
I just meant
we
in
have to
terms
learn.
of our allowable percentage of pervious surface.
Agreed. That's very valid. So yes, I mean, everything you described, Chester Valley has the ability to do, but it would be above the not to exceed dollar amount that we have in front of you. You could always add to that as a board at a later date if you're willing to move, I guess, this forward, and they can add it on as they go along.
That would be something I'd love to discuss maybe at next month's meeting, if we could have that out for bid. What do you think?
And if I could, I'm sorry, I'm always cautious of the word bid. All we're doing is getting professional services.
Okay, not for bid, add for
apologize. For additional-
evaluation by the engineering firm that we will approve this, hopefully this work order right now.
I'm just curious, like, if we're on the same mindset on this, are you thinking like one of those soft tracks like they have at the Haverford Trail?
I'm thinking
So-
literally anything other than dirt and rocks. I am so not fussed about what it is. I will be honest, I've been picking my children up and walking on that, and in the summertime, it is clouds. When it's nice out, it's clouds of dirt and dust that just puff up. And in the rain, it turns to mud instantly, and it also, between that and the field not draining particularly well, if it rains on a Monday, the kids might not be able to go outside for not only the day it's raining, but days after, if it's like squelchy and gross outside. And if the kids are running, there's, is it Girls on the Run, I think. There's a very, very large group out of BC and Kinwood that run in the neighborhood, and they run on the track, but you see this crowd of children or the BC running team, and they come out, and it's just like clouds, like they're running down.
Yes, I haven't been there, but I'm imagining what you are describing. And I don't know what that surface is, but they have it like, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
On the Haverford Trail? And then also like Friend Central, they have a lovely track.
I know that part of the reason, three reasons I've heard in the past that we haven't done it. One is that it is not free to do and other things have priority. Two is that that space is not large enough to have a standard shaped track. I talked to Dr. Yanni when he was here. He said he thought it might be possible to get a standard length track in a weird shape. I don't know if that's true or not, but I don't mind one way or another personally, since I'm not a running coach. But also, each property that we own has an amount of allowable area that is pervious surface so that the rainwater can go into the ground. And that the Kinwood and BC areas, if I recall from when we were talking about development at Penwyn years ago, that it is, I believe at 32 is the allowable and 35 is what we have, or vice versa. It's something in that neighborhood. And those are grandfathered in because the township has changed the code in recent years. And so at this point, any further development of impervious surface has been an immediate no-go with the township. My hope is that we can both maximize pervious surface materials and work with our township, because I know, since it's my neighborhood, I know a lot of my neighbors really go in and use that track during non-school hours. It's really, really common. I know from being on the board during COVID, we got a lot of emails from township members asking how and when we were going to have tracks open for walking on for like our retired community members like to use that during the day. It gets a lot of use. And so I'm hoping that that community aspect, and because as a district we keep our facilities open to the district, to the community in that way, that we can work on some sort of compromise if that were to come up. And as I said before, if any of our commissioners are watching, I would love to talk about that further.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with what you're saying, and I think it's in alignment with our health and wellness.
Absolutely.
And, and if it's, that difficult for people to walk, I mean, you're talking about a senior could be there walking and slip and fall because now it's a big muddy mess, or anyone for that matter. So I think for a multitude of reasons, it would be wise for us to go in that direction.
Yeah, and if we're already doing construction in that spot, doing a little more would be great. Jason, go ahead.
A twofer.
So, I was just going to say that, we've had conversations, Megan and I have a routine meeting with the commissioners. So we've already started the discussion about, that space, not the specifics. So the first of the approach was really, I think at this point, was the immediate concern. So the immediate concern is that the kids can't go out and participate and play in the grass because of the rain. So I think we were going to have this consultant come out and evaluate the field. And then I think this next step would be is once we have that information, then as a board, we can figure out, what would it cost and how would we fix the grass? And then in addition to that, how much it would be to fix the track as well. There have been a lot of complaints, as you guys have noted, also from the nurses, because the kids breathing in, especially those with asthma, can't go on the track or near the track because of the dust that comes up. So it's obviously something that should be tended to. But I think the first step, at least this was the approach, was to have someone take a look at the topography, see how we can figure out the rain storm kind of component of it. And then from there, we could evaluate as a board the price to fix that, as well as make upgrades to the track surrounding it as well.
So maybe as we're thinking about how we do that, if provided this goes forward, we can think about having like in the same way that you had the base bid and then the alternates, that we could maybe have them assess different track finishing methods as alternates to the bid of, the base bid of reworking the field space. Does that sound feasible to you, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, listen, I'm fine with doing the work tomorrow. I think though that we can't put the cart before the horse. I think what Jim's looking for is they're not even going to come back with, you know, potentially these are the different options. I think the first step is really evaluating, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but what they're going to do is they're going to evaluate it and let us know, all right, in our expert opinion, this is how we would fix those types of issues. And then what we would have to do is the next step would be is to put out to bid or to, you know, to hire someone to actually perform the work. These guys are not going to perform the work or tell us potentially how much it would cost to perform the work. They would just, they're going to tell us what work needs to be provided in order to make it so that we don't have an issue. Is that correct?
Correct. And again, setting the track aside, I'll pause for a moment. If the board approves this proposal, this work order on Monday, they'll have the survey done by September 6th.
Fantastic.
They'll go out and go right away. So all that background information we'll need no matter what.
Yeah.
You can jump on.
So let me, I don't know if I've made this clear. I definitely personally support approving this work order. I think it's information that we absolutely need. I think doing the field is essential. What I'm trying to do is position these things as partners, that as we're looking to go out for bid, they go out for bid at the same time, so that just in my experience, when you pair like problems together, they're more, both of them are more likely to get done than to try and do anything piecemeal. And so that was my personal impetus for sort of positioning it that way.
So in terms of where we are in August, September, under the assumption the board approves this task on Monday, engineers get started.
Great.
Now, their task will be the field. I can come back to you in September. We could have the additional costs put in to have the track evaluation. That's just a matter of the.
Well, the survey will include the track area,
yes,
though, right?
It's going to basically include everything between the buildings.
Okay.
Precisely. So no matter what, you're going to need that information. And no matter what, they have to start with the field and work their way out, because the field's going to be the high point. So even that from a design strategy. So that gets approved on Monday night in August.
Yes.
Another work order, or actually the same one, just amended, gets approved in September, and the engineers are now working on a track. What we would also be able to do at the same time, we frequently will have conversations, our engineers and our staff, with township staff. That will then start to flesh out some of the things about impervious coverage, like you discussed, how the stormwater would be done. Eventually, all of this drains into the township's storm drainage system. So we would be able to start to develop all that so that they can crunch the numbers and that conversation can start happening. And then that is really part of the first steps of what would eventually be a construction bid package, similar to that bid package we just had up at Black Rock. That has to go through an evolution and a whole process.
Unless we're pulling up some of the grass on the edge of the property there and putting in some of your stormwater management perennials.
Yeah, I'm going to try to keep. I'm going to try to keep each middle school as separate entities. But this is not uncommon. It gives our engineers the opportunity to dig in. Pardon the pun, that was terrible as well, not intended. But they can dig in, and then also it also identifies any red flags.
Yeah.
And then, so we're not spending and committing lots of funds if all of a sudden we find out there was some unforeseen condition that we research deeper and we don't have, there's something that might limit our abilities and possibilities.
Okay. Well, I appreciate all the thought and effort that's going into this. Jason, did you have something else to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say, so I think what Sheena is saying, and I agree, and I think that this is at least the mentality that we had when asking for this, is that we just want to make sure that the evaluation by the consultant is from wall to wall and that it includes the track, so that we don't have to go back and hire another consultant to have it, so that once we have the information back from this consultant, we can move to the next step, which is options, following the direction of them to develop options that we would pay for to have the work completed. So if there's additional monies that need to be added onto this to make sure that they're coming out once, right? If they come out a second time, it's going to cost more money. We just want to make sure that whole area in between, which I assume it's part of, is included in their survey so that we have all the information.
Jason, I'm seeing what Jim is pointing to, and for some reason it's not in.
I'll update it.
Lynn has, there's a map, and it has a red line of the area, and the area seems to go from the stone wall that abuts BC all the way along the field to the Kinwood side of the track, which then meets it into those concrete risers at the edge of the school. So it does appear that the whole survey area is anything that's not rock or concrete or a building between the two schools.
I'm going to update that page because that line does not show up. As an engineer, I don't like the way how that line showed up. I'd like to make it more prominent. And that dashed line was where the temporary classrooms used to be. I'm going to obliterate that because that was a remnant of an old drawing. Aha, that does look better now because there's your red. Look,
yeah.
It's better in color.
Oh, I had it
right,
in color.
I'm looking at it on the board docs.
Thank you, because I have a black and white and I'm going, ew.
Red area, so that will include the track. So after we get this information, I think, we'll hopefully be in a great position as a board to evaluate, what the next step would be, and then put out to bid potentially that work to get an idea of how much that would cost, to do that. And then, like Shanna said, we can have add-ons, which would be to the track and to other areas around that as well.
So, Ms. Gale, let's disregard the dashed line that's highlighted. It's
if I could add too, it's like this would be incorporated.
It says,
under
if
part
you
of our
scroll down
5-year
a tiny
plan
bit,
of all
it
the
says
stuff that needs-
proposed project area. What is it with everybody and the alliterative titles that I'm having to read today? Goodness gracious, doesn't everybody know it's summer vacation? Proposed project area is this lovely red outlined area. So yes, Jason, completely agree, cosine.
Right.
Everybody's good with moving this forward and hopefully getting some good work done in that field in the fall.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Yes, please, Mel.
Can I add something? Yeah, I just was going to say, I think this should be added to our 5-year plan as we have our capital projects.
Yep.
And I think that's
I think it was already added. I think that, I think the track and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the swing sets we had looked at, I think the track we at least had conversations about. I think that the field is an immediate concern just because the kids can't utilize it. So I think that's something that, might not be something that we can plan for. And, we might, depending on the price and depending on what comes back, that might be something that we want to address sooner than later, maybe within the next year or so that the children can actually utilize it. And then like the swing set and the track might be step 2 that could be part of, maybe a year out or 2 years out or, at the same time, who knows, we could evaluate that at that time.
And this will help us to quantify that because when we go to do the update of the 5-year plan, which, budget season will start before we know it. School starts, then it's budget season starts. So we know we're going to be into the 5-year plan. And I would like to have more accurate background and also a presentation to you that we talk about what's included, what's not included, so that we understand the scope and even like some of those menu options like you described. Now all that would be at the financial planning stage. What actually goes out to bid would be further down the road.
Right.
Contingent on
I think
where we are.
I think you have the support of this group at the very least to go out for this work order. Everybody's good?
Good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Fantastic. That is the last item on our agenda. And this is our last committee meeting for the summertime, and we will start in the school year again. Our next meeting date will be Thursday, September 12th at 8:30 a.m. in this room. Did you have something you wanted to add?
I'd just like to make a note about that time frame. It is something that I think we're looking at to potentially make some adjustments through the fall. More to come on that. But it is, it does conflict with the start time of high school. So we're mindful of that and are considering options for the fall, and we will keep everyone posted as soon as we make any final adjustments to that.
Great, thank you. And meeting adjourned. Have a great day.